hereby given that a regular meeting of the governing body of the Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held today, the second day of August at 6 p.m. at the Navasota City Hall in the City Council Chambers at 200 East McAlpine in Navasota. And we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Item number 2, no comments?
No comments.
Item number 3, consideration and possible action on appointing a chairman for the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
So Vice Chairman, Zoning Board, again, we had some change in the appointments, and so the chairman position is actually vacant. So staff recommends that a chairman be appointed until the next renewal term. And currently, Connie, you are the vice chairman.
I personally would appoint Connie and move her up to the chair and get another vice chair myself.
Yeah, I'll second that. Unless you guys want to have more discussion about it.
Y'all gonna even ask her?
Huh?
Y'all gonna ask her?
No, no. I've known her too long.
So I don't know that if we can actually.
That's why I limp nowadays.
Mac, I don't think that we can actually do that since on the agenda it's only for the chairman. But what you can do is appoint Connie as chairman, and then I can bring back the vice chairman at the next meeting, if that's what we want to do.
That work, Connie's made me feel bad because I didn't ask you, but we've always told each other what we're going to do.
That's true. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
So we have a motion to appoint Connie as chair. Motion by Mac, seconded by Paul. Is there any discussion?
All in favor?
We
We have
can't
to
do
have-
it.
Do we have to discuss, right?
Yeah. If there is no further discussion.
Oh, okay. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
The motion carries. Okay, number 4, conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comment and testimony regarding a zoning variance application submitted to the City of Navasota by Vaquero Navasota Partners, LP, for the property located along State Highway 105 East in Navasota, Grimes County, Texas, 77868, parcel ID R77764. The variance requests to develop a retail/restaurant use with a drive-through window facing the Highway 105 East right-of-way. A development standard not permitted as prescribed in Chapter 14 Zoning Ordinance, Article 11B1, General Business District, Development and Design Standards, D, Building Placement and Orientation. The property affected is legally described as Ram Development, Lot 1, acres 0.6889. And I guess we start the public hearing.
Yes. I think it's 6:05.
6:05.
So Chairman, Zoning Board of Adjustment, just a brief summary as you read through that item description. Essentially, Vaquero Navasota Partners is requesting a variance from the standard that is outlined in B1, Development and Design Standards. There's a provision in there that essentially says a drive-through or service window cannot face the right-of-way. Staff interprets this as basically the primary corridor right in front of the store, and so that in this case it would be 105 East. And so the variance is to face the drive-through right-of-way, or to face the drive-through window along 105 East right-of-way. And we've in the packet linked where that requirement is, and then we also included the actual verbiage under 4, right under the E-code link that actually shows you exactly what that provision says. Alex Langell is here with Vaquero Navasota Partners, if y'all have any questions.
I have a question for you, Lupe. Is this going to be the drive-through similar to what we have for Jack in the Box?
Yes, it's very similar. Yeah, it's a similar drive-through. It's just that instead of placing it on the right side of the building, the right wall, or the east wall, they're wanting to put it in front. facing 105 versus the Jack in the Box store, it faces that side road, similar to Chicken Express. You know, they all kind of are on the right side of the building.
Yeah.
Is this one of those things that is an generally recognized industry standard where you don't have the drive-through in the front? I mean,
I think I'll let Alex answer
for
that one.
aesthetic purposes?
Oh, as far as the B1 standard?
Right.
I'm assuming that was the case when it was adopted, you know, many years ago.
Okay.
I see it's Starbucks.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
I might be a little partial here.
That is our intended user right now. Nothing is finalized, but that is part of the reason that we're here today is based on their requirements of stacking in the drive-through line and the flow around the site. Having more cars within that drive-through lane, the better and more feasible for the overall site flow.
So one of the things I read in the packet was that you wanted to have this orientation to increase another 2 to 3 cars into the stack for the pull-up lane.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, the statistics that back that up to say that those 2 or 3 more spots are required in this area, what does that look like during peak time? How many cars are normally there?
That is a question that I don't have the statistics on. But those 2 or 3 cars allow the site to not back up into the parking lot, and then say it overflows even further into the shared access drive between the Jack in the Box and the Chicken Express. That's something we're just trying to be more cognizant of between our neighbors. And so the overall flow of those 3 quick service development restaurants, if all 3 were packed during a peak time, this is just something that we try to get in front of prior to ever developing a site.
So the secondary question I had for you then is, if we had the actual window on the side, and any sort of driver that's going ahead and pulling out from there that's distracted looking down, they have to turn and they would possibly hit a curb first before they would hit a person. With the way that this orientation is, what's there to prevent them from actually running over a pedestrian due to a distracted driver?
I don't think I quite understand.
So right now, the crosswalk is right in front of that
here.
car right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
And so the window that the guy is getting the food from is at that first car right there.
Yes, sir.
So what's to prevent that person being distracted and accidentally running over somebody? Whereas the other orientation on the side, there would be a prevention there because nobody's walking there in front of it.
It's kind of similar to McDonald's, isn't it? Where the window is and
Yeah, I guess they have that. They have park. It's not a really designated crosswalk, but people park on the north side and walk back
I hadn't
and
thought
forth.
about that, but your question, but I've thought about that when I've been to McDonald's, and it seemed like the window was close to.
Mm-hmm. So that's ultimately the question, is how do you go ahead and safeguard the community in order to ensure that nobody is distracted and gets hit? And that's why I think that this was ultimately created, was to protect the pedestrian traffic in order to ensure that no one gets hurt inadvertently.
Yes, sir. And I think there are certain things that our tenant and as the landlord can do, such as the Starbucks directional signage there that says stop sign, look both ways. There are certain things that you can do as the landlord that kind of help the overall flow and safety of the pedestrians as well as the tenant.
And that's definitely something that if theoretically the variance is approved, staff can work with the firm before it gets to planning and zoning to just look at the layout and pedestrian circulation to make sure that that's addressed.
Of course, you would hope that people would use a little common sense and pay attention, but they don't. They run through the intersection of my house every day.
One of the questions I had, and I don't know if you were involved with the Jack in the Box, but I don't like, are you going to have a curb? Are you going to have a curb that people couldn't drive over because you've got 13 cars in there? And, you know, if you're like back at, you know, car number 10 or something, and you're tired of waiting, or you need to get out, or you've got an emergency, will you be able to get around? I mean, I couldn't tell if that was grass, because it's right up close to the property line there.
Yes, ma'am, and I
But-
believe that will be a curbed area.
So that I'm clear, this last final car is where the window's gonna be?
Yes.
Here.
Wouldn't that be safer for pedestrians than if it was right here and someone just coming around
Yeah.
that corner?
I think so.
That's how I would think about it.
And I got caught in Jack in the Box, and, you know, I had an emergency come up at the sheriff's office. And I couldn't get out until there was nobody behind me, and I backed all the way out of the,
Because you can't jump that steep,
no, it's pretty deep.
impossible.
It's pretty deep.
So it's a regular curb, but is there enough, I mean, is there gonna be grass there, and could somebody maneuver through there if they needed to get out?
Based on our current site layout, I don't believe so.
Is it possible to do like a speed bump or something like that?
Oh, you mean at the crosswalk?
Yeah, like right before it?
Yeah, I mean, we could look at all those options whenever the
Slow them
full
down a little
submittal is. But in regards to Connie's question about the drive-through, I mean, I know this has come up before. I think you're just seeing that more and more now. People are trying to utilize the spaces as much as possible. I mean, there's some places that have double stacking lanes, but even those are sometimes full, especially at peak. You know, if you get really busy, even if you had 2 rows, I mean, at least I know if this does end up being the Starbucks, they're usually fairly busy. So I think even if they had 3 lanes, it'd probably be all full.
That's something we've seen. A lot of those drive-throughs are going to the double order point that you see with the Jack in the Box, or just a complete double drive-through, and even then they will get backed up.
Is this the same company that put in the other 2 restaurants?
No, sir.
No.
I think my biggest concern overall, and I don't even know if that pertains to us, is just how you're gonna manage traffic. I have a feeling like, what if this traffic's gonna be backing up? Especially if you have those, what are they, those mobile orders, you park, people are gonna be running in, you're gonna have a long line.
I think
I'm not sure that it doesn't show the parking count, but when we go to the full review, I mean, we'll ensure that based on the square footage, they have enough parking spaces. And then, you know, what they're proposing helps a bit too, to add a few more cars in that lane.
Right.
And based on our current layout, we're able to fit 25 parking spaces.
Oh, okay.
Why would the handicap parking be where it is as opposed to where the bike rack location is? It seemed like it would be less dangerous for somebody to have to cross the,
It's probably proximity
Bike ramp.
from the door.
Oh, I see.
Proximity to the front door rather
Yeah.
than going around the back patio area.
well, yeah, I see.
I'm a little confused. Why is the drive-through such a big deal, and where does that exist in our ordinance?
Oh, yes.
Is that from the get-go?
Yeah, so it's in the B1 Development and Design Standards. You know, I think ultimately it might have been an aesthetic thing whenever it was adopted. It really doesn't work well whenever you have corners, for example. So like in the Jack in the Box, I mean, staff has always interpreted this rule to be the road that you're facing. You know, if we would have applied the same principle to even Jack and Burger King in corner situations, you know, it wouldn't make sense for someone to put the drive-through window on the left side of the building when you first pull into the parking lot, because then everyone would back up out to the street.
Right.
So it's just one of those weird rules. You know, sometimes these development standards are written for certain scenarios, but they obviously don't fit very well in every situation. So
Right.
I think that's where, you know, thankfully we have variance procedures and some discretion on things, but in this instance, since it was directly in front of 105, you know, staff felt it was necessary to bring it before the board.
Right.
So if we approve the variance, anything to do with landscaping and drainage that would come about because of this change,
Mhm.
that would be handled by planning and zoning.
Correct, yes, yeah, everything.
Things that we've brought up, like speed bumps and things like that, is that ultimately,
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm notating all these things. So if the variance moves forward, then they'll come back and do the full submittal. You know, we'll get 10, 15 pages worth of plans with different sheets, one for landscaping, one for lighting, one for fire lane, and then we'll do the full review. And you know, obviously, we'll take these things into consideration when reviewing the plans.
I wonder how that's aesthetically gonna look facing 105. I don't see where that would be a problem.
as fast as people are going, they're not going.
Huh?
I don't think you
As
noticed.
fast as nobody's gonna notice, they go by so fast.
Unless you know the
Oh,
person
boy,
at
isn't that
the,
the truth?
if you know the person at the drive-through window, you can wave when you drive by.
I did that one day. It took them 20 minutes at Jack in the Box to fill a breakfast croissant on the way to church.
So I know you said it's for aesthetic space on 105, but I thought it was for the pedestrian crosswalk when I read the ordinance. And so I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing here.
Let's see. I think that there is a pedestrian access portion in the B1 requirements. I think this is in the building placement and orientation, where it just talks about the way you lay out a building and how you face it. Let me make sure.
Now, how would they position the building in accordance with the other two restaurants are there? Are y'all gonna be ahead of the other two that are on either side?
Based on the current aerial, we'll be a little bit staggered with the way the Chicken Express is currently existing, and then just the way that the Highway 105 kind of tapers off. So we're just gonna fall right in line between the Chicken Express and the Jack in the Box.
Well, personally, even though I don't care for Starbucks coffee, you know, Starbucks has attractive buildings, and I don't see anything that will take away from.
Oh, and it's right off of 105. People
Yeah.
are gonna make that stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough.
And you've got
business.
access off of 6 onto Durden to come around from Highway 6.
Yep.
So Paul, on the question, it's under the building placement orientation. The pedestrian access and bicycle access, that's under a different section. So they have different.
Anybody
Can you go
crossing a
back up
bicycle out
to the
there is
other one?
crazy,
Yeah.
or a motorcycle.
And this is the provision we're discussing tonight.
Well, personally, I just think we're wasting time on something that's kind of a misnomer. I mean, like I said, people need to have a little common sense about crossing, and, you know, people still go up and down Railroad Street both ways.
Yes, that happened to me
So,
this week.
we can do all the safeguards we want to, signs and everything else, and it still doesn't happen.
And honestly, expanding is gonna be the smarter idea in the sense of traffic, because the last thing that you want is there to be traffic backed up right there that's going into 105.
Oh, that's the.
But then on top of that, if our concern
Under
is this
this
crosswalk,
is
we should be
different
just as concerned about Jack in the Box.
That's where that.
Because they're coming around the corner so fast, they're not even gonna have time to stop
Oh.
for that crosswalk. Versus they're stopped at that window, grabbing their drink, and then they're going.
Placement, site, and pedestrian, and that is in the building placement.
We didn't have, I know it was in the newspaper, but we didn't have anything from anybody, I'm assuming no.
No, I didn't get any calls. We had an ad in the paper 2 weeks ago. We notified 12 surrounding property owners. And no, as of Friday, I hadn't received anything, and this week I haven't gotten any calls either. Oh, there's also a sign out front.
Did
Yeah,
Jack in the
people
Box or Chicken Express say anything?
No, they were also mailed a copy of the letter and of the hearing notice, and did not receive any calls.
In my professional experience, people don't read. They don't. They don't. Signs or anything else. And, you know, they probably didn't respond because of that. You know, oh, somebody else will handle it. It's terrible. They need to, but that's life. I've seen it too many times in other situations, but that's just my opinion.
And the definition of the public right-of-way, it's not a pedestrian crosswalk, that's a different moniker?
Yeah, so right of way typically refers to the road, wherever the road is developed. Right of way is not on private property. So like that crosswalk and some of those sidewalks are inside the property, but any right of way that's on, basically, in this situation, it's TxDOT right of way, so TxDOT property.
I think they have a speed bump at the one on Rock Prairie. It seems like when we pull out from the window and turn around, before you get in the front, where the traffic is, there's a speed bump, it seems like.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I feel it's kinda like
Chick-fil-A,
a-
is that what you're talking
No,
about?
Starbucks on Rock
I
Prairie.
feel like it's like a dip,
Yeah, something.
because there's like a yoga place, and then right there it's kind of like a dip, and then you go up, yeah. But there's a lot of traffic over there because of all them little businesses around it.
In the hospital and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do like about that layout is that you don't have them coming from two directions. There've been some altercations between whose turn it is at the one on Rock Prairie, because you're coming in from two different directions.
Right.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
amazed if he ever teaches driver's ed nowadays anyway.
They give them a book, and you just said people don't read.
Personally, I think we need to move forward on it and go ahead and put a
So we need to, anybody have any other
Yeah, I'm just
questions
talking
before we
that.
close the public hearing, or?
I don't know anymore.
All right, and it is 6:23. Item number 5 is consideration and possible action on order number 3-2023, approving a zoning variance application submitted to the City of Navasota by Vaquero Navasota Partners LP for the property located along State Highway 105 East in Navasota, Grimes County, Texas, 77868, parcel ID R77764. The variance requests to develop a retail/restaurant use with a drive-through window facing the Highway 105 East right-of-way. A development standard not permitted as prescribed in Chapter 14 Zoning Ordinance, Article 11B-1, General Business District. Development and Design Standards D, Building Placement and Orientation. The property affected is legally described as Ram Development, Lot 1, acres 0.6889. So I guess we need a motion. Yes, ma'am.
make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Max, seconded by Taylor, to approve the variance. Is there any
And
discussion?
no emotion.
All in favor?
Just trying to follow the, so, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 6, consideration and possible action on approval of the June 28th, 2023 meeting minutes as presented. I move we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor, any discussion? Any corrections? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, ma'am. 6:25.
Perfect.
You want to?